All right, folks, this is the time. It's Wednesday night, 8:30 Eastern time. We got Cam Underwood on the line from State of the U, and that means we're talking Miami football. Cam, how you doing tonight?
I feel good. I feel strong. I'm wearing my black U shirt, which it fits perfectly right on the sides of my microphone there on the
It
screen. So,
does. And
so
it matches the mic as well.
exactly. So,
Beautiful.
like I said, I feel good, feel strong. Good to be talking some Miami Hurricanes.
Would like to remind everyone that we've got the super chat on so you can contribute to the channel. Also, you can join us on Patreon. And also, if you grab the Amazon link down in the description section of any of the videos, you can help support the channel as well. All right. So, spring practice, as you just mentioned to me, starts on March 19th. So, as things stand right now, of course, once they hit the field, then guys will get nicked up. There will be reports of guys overachieving, underachieving, and then you react to what you hear and what you see. But as it stands right now, what are you looking for?
I mean, a couple of different things are what I'm looking for. Obviously, player development is of the utmost importance over the spring because this is a time to really do that, have player progression and things. So you're talking about guys taking a leap between freshman, sophomore, junior. This is the time between that year or those seasons that the progression is seen. So I really want to see that. Obviously, kind of figuring out what the early starting lineups are going to be, offense and defense. Obviously, want to see how the new guys are integrated into the defense because Miami's defense is losing a fair amount of guys when you look at 4 or 5 guys off the defensive line, 3 starters in the secondary. That was the number 1 pass defense in college football, obviously, from last year. So there are players that need to be replaced. Gerald Willis is no longer on the roster, and Gerald Willis was a man, amongst men last year. He should have been first team All-American in my mind. Should have been, obviously first team All-ACC, but Clemson bias. So you put a player who is good but did not perform as well as Gerald Willis on first team because Miami went 7-6, but that's beside the point. So replacing a Gerald Willis, a Jaquan Johnson, who was heart and soul of the defense, Michael Jackson, who was very, very good. He developed over his time in Miami, in a pretty much perfect progression. Replacing those guys on defense and seeing what that next kind of unit is going to look like is very important. And I saved it for last. And I know people have been, as I've been talking and you've been listening to this or watching this, thinking, hey, Cam, are you going to say it? Absolutely. Offense. I want to see it. I need to see what it's going to be like. I want to see how it's going to be different than, the Mark Richt. We've been doing these same plays for 30 years. And even the people know that they're coming, anytime you go I formation, we're going to go fullback dive, except for one time they threw like a fullback flat pass or something. But like literally, I think every time they lined up an I formation last year, it was a fullback dive. I want to see what Dan Enos is going to bring. We were, kind of tongue in cheek joking. Mike Harley put up a screenshot on, I think it was on Snapchat. Somebody screenshotted it and put it on the timeline on Twitter about, hey, we're looking at the offensive install meeting for motions. And everybody's like, oh my God, we're going to have motion. But nobody's moved on Miami's offense in 6 years or more. I mean, like Miami will line up, and if you win the routes because we have better receivers, cool. Or what, there was no kind of subterfuge. No, there was just no moving parts. But seeing that even on screen, just the U logo, and it says motions, mind blowing. Like that's crazy. Like Jeff Thomas, why are we not running him on a reverse? Mark Pope, why are these other kind of things? And then obviously with that embedded is what is the offensive line going to look like? Who's going to start at running back? And of course, who's going to start at quarterback, the most important position on the field. So all those things are kind of wrapped up in the offense. But yeah, I really just want to see how the guys are progressing, what things they're doing better, how they're closing the gaps in their game or highlighting the things that they do well. And yeah, I mean, we're going to get some kind of scoring system from practices. We're going to get them from, the scrimmages. There's going to be a spring game, I think, somewhere. And there's going to be a scoring system from that. But yeah, I really just, the main things, if I broke it down into 2 components that I'm looking for spring, player progression, and then what the new units are going to look like on offense and defense. And that includes all the starters and especially the scheme on offense. So yeah, that's what I'm looking for spring, and we'll see what happens.
Isn't running a guy in motion one of the basic concepts of at least forcing the defense to show its initial hand? At least you're getting some kind of indicator from running a guy in motion to see what are they going to do to pick up that guy in motion. Number one, so it's very basic offense to run a guy in motion to see what the defense is going to do. Number two, if you're going to set up a play for the guy in motion, depending on the reaction time of the player, it's just like running a pick in basketball or football, that it's not a surprise to the defense when they see it coming, but it's just difficult to defend because the guy just has a head start in regards to spacing. And so that's why you do that. But that's just two reasons.
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, there's so many different kinds of motion. You got jet motion, you got orbit motion. You can even do short motion where you're in a normal 2x1, or two receivers on one side and then one on the other side, kind of formation. So a 2x1, and then you just take that outside receiver and motion them inside, and all of a sudden those receivers, instead of being next to each other, they're stacked. And you got to figure out, okay, now the defense is going to say, okay, how are we going to deal with stack releases? Like, who's going to take, like, do you renumber them? Like, who takes the first one? Who takes the second one? Like, what if there's an outbreaking, in-breaking? Like, there are things that the defense has to do to deal with receivers in a stack versus a side-by-side alignment. And you can change those responsibilities and bring those into question. And Dan Enos has said he wants to put defenses in conflict, which is exactly something like that. So yeah, I mean, it does not need to be a Matt Canada offense, which is going to come out, shift, motion, stop, shifting. It doesn't have to be all of that, but to have somebody move from where they lined up to somewhere else is going to be revolutionary for a Miami Hurricanes offense, which is crazy to think about, but it's true. So, like I said, I want to see how that works. And then, yeah, I mean, I did bury the lead because, we still don't know about Tate Martell. But yeah, I want to see who plays quarterback. Obviously, I want to see who wins it. And, like I've said for a long time, I am a N'Kosi Perry fan, but I'm a fan of the best quarterback for the University of Miami, period.
Every time I see a new handle on the live chat, I always I think that's cause for celebration. So welcome to Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. This is Power Hitter P. Power Hitter P.
We're bang, bang, home run. Let's go.
Appearance here, right, on Cam's appearance on Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Cam rejoins us. We're glad to see him. And Power Hitter is asking about John Ford and the defensive tackle position.
John Ford is a big dude, and John Ford's going to need to play like a big dude. Yeah, I mean, he's coming into his junior year. As I bring up the matrix, the scholarship matrix here, which is still pinned on the front page of State of the U. I know I published it in 2014, and I've been updating it ever since. I published it January 26th of 2014, the scholarship matrix, and I've been updating it continuously since then. So I know that no player who was on the matrix then is on now, but anyway, so if you're looking for, like how many scholarships, and I'm always within like one or two scholarships. Like there might be like a walk-on or something who gets on scholarship that I might not have like upgraded to a scholarship player, but I've been pretty accurate, with just looking at the roster and then, just talking with other people and then, seeing what the coaches say. So right now I have Miami at 83 scholarships, but that's kind of beside the point. John Ford is a junior right now. At defensive tackle, you have Pat Bethel, who's a fourth-year senior, Chigozie Naruka, who's a transfer from UCLA, who's a fifth-year senior, John Ford, who's a junior, Tyreek Martin, who's a redshirt junior, who's never played a meaningful snap and probably won't ever do that at Miami, so take him off the list. Then you got Nesta Silvera, who's a sophomore, and then you got three freshmen, Jared Harrison Hunt, Jalar Holly, and Jason Blissett, and a redshirt freshman and Jordan Miller. So there's four freshmen and everything. But, dude, John Ford has to play now. Like, he was 6'4", 296 coming out of Dillard High School in Fort Lauderdale. And, I mean, I saw him play a couple times personally in high school. And he's a big guy. He can play that one tech, that interior, not a nose guard, not the Vince Wilfork zero tech where he's lined up right over the center, but that interior, guy who's going to take up a little bit more space. He's going to occupy the guard in the center by trying to shoot that A gap. But he's going to have to play. it's come to that point. Like I said, Tyreek Martin's a fourth-year senior. He was a Craig Kuligowski find. He was going to be, that developmental guy at Missouri to maybe step up because, Kuligowski coached at Missouri. He left there and came to Miami when they had a coaching change. So Tyreek Martin followed him. Tyreek Martin has never played a meaningful snap at Miami. And like I said, he's not going to. That means you got two seniors, and then you got John Ford, and then you got Nessa Silvera, who's really, really good. But, John Ford needs to step it up now. Like, honestly, with Jared Harrison Hunt, Jalar Holly, and who's the third? Jason Blissett. Those freshmen, like true freshmen, incoming defensive tackles, even like, look, those guys are on the caliber or under what Nessa Silvera was coming out of American Heritage last year. I would say Jason Blissett's probably the best right now. Jared Harrison Hunt probably second, and he's a basketball player who's supremely athletic. I put it up on his Welcome to the U piece. Like, he was swatting stuff out the sky. And I mean, he's a 6'4", 286-pound power forward in New York. I mean, playing at one of the powerhouse programs, but he's a good athlete, but I don't think he's going to be a foundational defensive tackle. Same thing with Jalar Holly, who's a bigger dude, probably in that one technique mold, but he's probably a ways away. And then Jordan Miller is another guy who can play, that one tech, but he's going to, he's a redshirt freshman, so he's going to be integrated in slowly. That means John Ford is the biggest dude at the defensive tackle position. You've been here for a couple years. You didn't redshirt either year, okay? It's time to step up. So, I mean, he has all the talent in the world. I do have faith in Jess Simpson, but dude, it's coming time that, have you driven a Ford lately? Like, dude, you got to show me something. Like, you got to, get up there and make some plays. So, I mean, like I said, he has all the talent in the world, and the way that the roster is set up at defensive tackle, especially at his position of defensive tackle, that there's a space for someone to come and make plays, but number 96 needs to start making them now.
Got Cam Underwood on the line from State of the U. So you go there and you prepare yourself for spring practice, which starts March 19th. Cam and the staff releasing positional breakdowns. They've started with the cornerback position and also running back. So we'll touch upon it here. But if you really want to go in depth and read it line by line and get yourself set up and ready and prepared to talk Miami football and sound like you know what you're talking about, then you join Cam and the crew right there. Boy. The questions and comments are rolling in. So this is an offbeat one, but
Okay.
Turan is basically saying, Cam, if you went to Miami and became a recruiter for the Canes, how well would you do?
I think I would do pretty well, honestly. I worked in high school for 14 years, have had connections with, high school athletes. I, announced a variety of athletic events. I taught and, was around that whole culture. So, I understand how students' brains work and things like that. So just being able to talk to them and connect to them. And it's really, that's kind of what you do. It's not, kids are like the truth tellers of life. Like, if you are fake with them, they will see it. No matter their age, if you come in like, oh, I'm Mr. Such and Such, like, bro, that's not even you, man. That's not, they see straight through you. So you do have to be authentic with them. But I mean, yeah, I think I would do well. Honestly, I'm a personable guy, I speak their language. I've been around them for a long time, so like the slang that they use and the way that they talk and the ways that they interact and the memes and things like that, you have to understand that lexicon. You have to be able to connect with those people. And, just having the connection over the course of time, like, hey, I worked at the school where Geno Smith went to school, him and Stedman Bailey, Tracy Howard, Malcolm Lewis, Jermaine Grace, like and guys who went other places, Terrell Lucas up at Duke. Well, he's transferring from Duke, but Tyreek Cole, who was a 4-star, 5-star borderline recruit a while back, his career flamed out really badly due to some off the field things. But anyway, like, yeah, that kind of thing. So, I mean, I think that I'm a high energy guy. And yeah, I think I would use that energy and just my love of sport and obviously the University of Miami, my alma mater, to good advantage. And, recruiting is a team sport too. Like, there's multiple coaches on the staff. There's multiple people in the recruiting office, admissions and, whatever major area, you're talking about JJ Phillips or Jalen Phillips from UCLA. When he retired, from UCLA, excuse me, he's talking about, oh, he wants to go into music like Chad Thomas. Cool. So we're going to reach out to Chad Thomas, have Chad Thomas come back. We're going to go over to the songwriting department and have one of those professors, probably going to get a couple students to come over. Oh, I want to do business administration. Cool. We're going to go over there and talk to some people. Matt Walters, who off of whose knee that interception against Boston College. No, he was the one who caught the ball after it went off of Mike Rump's knee. He was a grad student in physics. So you got somebody who's, a lineman who wants to do that. You bring in somebody like that. You go over to whoever's in the physics department, things like that. So you leverage all these different kind of things. And when you have a knowledge of the institution, you're able to do that. I think I have a knowledge of the institution, my alma mater, even though it is growing and developing and changing because it's a living, breathing organization all the time. But yeah, if I were a recruiter, I think I would do pretty well. And I would know the kids to go after. I would listen really to other people, even though I would make my own decisions. But in the past, I think that there have been people who have kind of been very set in their ways and not necessarily listening to people who know things. But I would try to do that a little bit better. So I think I would be a pretty good recruiter. So that's my answer.
So what you just said makes a whole lot of sense in light of what you said during your defensive line dissertation about the one kid, I don't remember his name, who has no chance of making it on the field for meaningful
Tyreek
minutes.
Martin.
Yeah. So because I'm always wondering when I see a program like a Miami or fill in the blank, the elite programs, and I think this kid's never going to play. Why doesn't he go to a group of 5 team that's very good? Why doesn't he go to Houston or Connecticut or wherever it is and play group of 5 football, very high level of football, and play rather than go to Miami? Well, obviously we think of it football. We're football fans. All we think is football. These kids show up and they go play football and they choose to play football. And all they're thinking is football, football, football. And I decided to go here to play football. Well, they're student athletes and they also have other priorities in life. Of course, football is something that they do very well. Even if they sit on the bench at a place like Miami for 4 years and never touch the field, they're still really good at football. Compared to the population, it's not even close.
Right.
They're still in the top 1/2 of 1%, higher than that even, compared to the guys playing high school football. But there are other things with life. And at a place like Miami, obviously the education is first rate. So you're selling them on that aspect as well.
I mean, you had to sell them on everything, and it's just, if you go back and I got into recruiting and wanting to talk about it and everything because of the NCAA college football game, the EA Sports, it's in the game. I used to write out on yellow pads. I had spreadsheets on my computer, when I was growing up and in college of every kid I was recruiting and and a kid didn't go to whatever school I was at the time and all those kind of things. So spinning that forward, you see those things from the games of these are the pitches that you would say to a kid to get them to come to your school. Oh, it's close to home and your mom and your girlfriend, or, the stadium atmosphere. We're going to win championships, or you're going to play right away. Or, we got NFL guys in the pipeline in front of you and you can learn from the best. If you're going to be a wide receiver coming in after, Andre Johnson, dude, you came in after Santana Moss, Daryl Jones, and Reggie Wayne, all of them who had long NFL careers. Even Daryl Jones, if you go look up his stats, he was in the NFL for long enough, I believe, to get a pension, which is, not everybody. So, you come in right at that, you're going to be the next guy. So you're going to play special teams as a freshman. You're going to blow up as a sophomore or a redshirt sophomore, and then you're going to leave. And, he had his own legendary borderline Hall of Fame career in the NFL. So there's so many different things that you can say and do. So yeah, academics is going to be one, just the feel of the place, there's so many different kind of things. But yeah, you get to really push all of them. But like I said, I love my alma mater. I love the institution of the University of Miami. I, have a passion for it as well. And if I were, working in the recruiting office or something like that, I believe that I would do a good job because I'm always going to bet on me and I know that I'm awesome. So let's go and be awesome. Go Canes.
Miami Football Talk with Cam Underwood from State of the U. And not only is the recruiting pitch awesome, but obviously what he does on here, talking to us and giving us insight and information into Miami football is awesome, as well as what they do there at State of the U. So the questions and comments are piling up, but before I get to those, I want to give a shout out to Fred Langston. We got Leon Hurricanes. We got the power hitter who asked a question. And of course that was translated to Cam, and Michael Love for your contributions. It's amazing. Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. We can go rapid fire. I don't have to talk long. Like we can. I know I've been gone for a couple weeks, so we can blaze through them. Like let's get it.
So we've got on the subject of recruiting. I talked to a USC, couple USC people this week that were very high on their attempts at Justin Flo. Is he a reasonable target for Miami?
Justin Flo is going to be visiting Miami unofficially in March. He just told to 24/7 Sports that was released, I believe, today, that information. So he's coming from California to Miami on his own dime for an unofficial visit. So that indicates interest. And I know I'm plugging this feature, but I really believe in it. It's called the Recruiting Rules. It's still up on the front page of State of the U. If you go down, I forget which rule it is, but it's follow the visits. I think it's Rule 6. If a kid visits, especially from cross country on their own dime, that means something. And I always say, especially for out of state and out of area kids, because like Georgia, Alabama, Florida, South Carolina, that's in the area for Miami. From California, left coast, that's not in the area. So if a kid makes his way to campus, if anybody would ask me, if this visit was not on the books, I would say there's no chance with Justin Flo unless or until he visits. That's what I've always said for all of these different kids. So still, and he might, change his mind and say, oh yeah, I'm not going to come, but he sets foot on campus and then there's a reasonable expectation, or at least a chance. It becomes real and tangible then, because right now it's hypothetical with any of these kids from anywhere else that's far away. But once they set foot on campus in Coral Gables, then the game is afoot and there is a chance. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be 100%. And he, like I said, he might even decide, hey, I'm not even going to take an official visit to Miami. But things start to become real once visits happen, especially unofficial visits, which, again, the kid and their parents pay for, and long distance visits from California to Miami. So is there a chance? Sure, until he rules us out. But yeah, when he steps foot on campus, then things start to get a little bit real, and we'll see what happens.
There's a question here concerning Miami's ability to compete in the ACC for a championship. So I think this is a different situation in this conference than any conference in the country because of the presence of Clemson. So competing for a division championship, and even though anybody has a puncher's chance in one 60-minute football game, there's just a whole other level when you talk Clemson football and where they are right now. So before I turn it over to Cam, that's my take on Miami. We discussed this with Cam a couple weeks ago in regards to the talent on the roster at Miami versus the rest of the Coastal Division. Now, that roster talent has only converted to one division championship in these many years, but it's always been the best, and Virginia Tech's been close a number of times in regards to talent. But we've seen Duke win, Georgia Tech win multiple times, Pitt win last year, and North Carolina as well, and go to the ACC championship game with lesser talent. So that's not the end-all be-all. You got to turn it into something. But in regards to competing for a championship, so when I'm asked questions like this, Cam, I force the people to tighten up the question because, hey, this is for hardcore college football fans. We are for the smart fans. So we're going to hold you accountable. So when you say, can Miami turn it around? I'm like, what does turn around mean?
Right.
Fine, turn around. So this viewer here, I'm sorry I missed your name, but is asking about competing for the ACC championship.
I mean, it's a thing that Miami should aspire to, obviously. You talk about goals. And I mean, there's steps along the path. The goal is a national championship. So the path along that way is win every game on your schedule, win the Coastal Division, which would happen by virtue of that, win the ACC Conference, which would happen by virtue of that, and then win the national championship. So there's progressional steps. Miami is the most talented team in the Coastal Division, and it is not even close. The blue chip ratio, I'm doing the math, or I'm writing that piece, I think, in a couple weeks right before spring practice. But yeah, Miami is going to be at 55, 58%, almost 60% blue chips. Bro, that's national championship caliber roster status. So, winning the division should happen. Now,
not to cut you off, is it really that high?
Yeah. It's over 50%.
Because that Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia line is like really...
It's 60, 70%. You're right. Yeah. But I mean, it's up there. Like I want to say, if I open up the calculator on my computer right now, if we're talking 44, if you talk 44 blue chips out of 83 roster or scholarship people, that's 53% blue chips right there. And I think that we're about that, give or take.
I'm going to take a guess that when you finish your compilation for the entire division, that the shocking fact is going to be that maybe North Carolina is number 2. North
Mm-hmm.
Carolina, despite these
Mm-hmm.
2 seasons in which they've won 5 games the last 2 years and only 2 in the ACC against, 14 losses the
Yeah.
last 2 years, they're always like 22nd, 25th.
Mm-hmm.
They have much better recruiting classes than Pitt at 45 and Virginia at 55. And I
Yeah.
was going through, I've got right here recruiting rankings that I did a series here, and this series could go on endlessly, Cam,
Of course.
where I found a bunch of interesting storylines. Like, let's look at Miami, Florida, Florida State, and compare, like I mentioned to you, recruiting rankings versus results on the field. Let's take the Clemson team from last year that whipped Alabama, and let's look at their recruiting rankings and compare their 4 and 5 stars versus the teams that competed on the field in the national championship game. Urban
Mm-hmm.
Meyer against Michigan. Obviously, we know that was a runaway, but let's look at it. I took I was starting on Alabama since Saban arrived versus the rest of the SEC in regards to 4 and 5 stars. So I got the
Mm-hmm.
recruiting rankings right here. And when you look at North Carolina over the last 5 years, 20, 29, 32, 28, and 30. Now, who has
Not
been the
bad.
second best team in the division talent-wise over this time? Probably Virginia Tech, I would guess, has maybe the best record in the division over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
24, 26, 42, 29, 28. And everybody else,
Yeah.
like in the fourth, Virginia, as good as they became last year at 8 and 5, 59, 58, 63, 50, and they had a 33 class.
Yeah. So I mean, all those things are true.
All right. So you've broken down the cornerbacks and the running backs there at State of the U. So we advise people to check that out. Dennis is looking for a secondary rotation. Oh, Cam, if you can hear me, we lost you. Even with your booming voice, it doesn't quite make it through if we've got a bit of a breakdown. No, we lost you. You were completely silent, so I don't think it's like a it just went. I can't imagine it's anything on my end because nothing's been touched. Very odd. Click out, Cam. Come right back in. All right. Sean Jackson, love the channel. Sean, we appreciate your support. And believe me, I know a number of you are seeing people that are joining the super chat and contributing that way. That's not expected. It is appreciated. And I think to a certain extent, you can trust me for being good
Hello.
for those contributions, and I will put them in a right place going
Hello.
forward. We do have Cam's audio back.
There
Good
we
to hear
go.
from
Sorry.
you. Secondary
Yeah.
rotation.
Right. No, I was over here just messing with stuff idly, and I guess I unplugged something. Before I get to the secondary rotation, to wrap up that previous point, Miami should be able to compete for an ACC championship. Now, obviously, that is climbing a big mountain with Clemson on the other side, but the path there is really going to be up to Miami. And I've said it for years. If Miami does what they need to do in the Coastal Division, they should win it. Period. Period. That's it. Because there's no team that is as talented as Miami. I don't care. So we should be able to get there. And then obviously it's scheming up and figuring a way out, one game scenario to, dethrone Clemson. But obviously even bad Pitt teams have been able to figure that out. So there's a chance.
And before you get to the secondary again, I'm going to lock us down into the semantics real quick. When you ask a question like that, you bring up Pitt last year. Did Pitt compete for the ACC championship? Technically, yes, they did. They went 6-2, won the division,
Right.
and they played in the ACC championship game. Would most people consider Pitt to have contended for the ACC championship? No, they were absolutely no contest or challenge to Clemson. So
Right.
it's a very different situation in that conference unless something changes here. And the likely candidates would be Miami and Florida State to do something about it, to change it and to even the playing field once again. But this conference is different than the other 4 when it comes to that.
Right, exactly. So, yeah, all that is true. Now, getting back to the next question of secondary rotation, I've seen people ask about this. First of all, we did preview the cornerback position already on State of the U for the spring, so go and take a look at that. At cornerback, I'm going to put Trajan Bandy. I'm going to etch that in stone. He's going to start at cornerback. Obviously, with no injuries assumed, because like I never assume or wish injury upon anybody. So Trajan Band is going to start. I say that Al Blades is probably going to get rotation snaps, probably work on the interior of the defense, so like a slot corner, because he was playing that a lot in his snaps last year. And then it's going to be between DJ Ivy or Christian Williams, the 4-star signee out of Daphne, Alabama, this past recruiting class. Excuse me. To see time on the outside. And yeah, maybe a Nigel Bethel, obviously, who's a redshirt freshman. He's a very fast player from Miami Northwestern, who is a developmental guy, but, you know, you have a year 4 development. So somebody's going to have to step up there, whether it's any of those last, 4 guys, Blades or Ivy or Christian Williams, to Corey Couch, who's another 4-star signing this last year. Some of those guys are going to have to step up. I'm not exactly sure whom, but that's the list. At safety, Miami has 3 NFL players. You've got Gervin Hall, Amari Carter, and Bubba Bolden transferring in from USC. Those guys are going to play. I don't care. Work it out. I'm not married to any 2 of them, but this is like years ago when Miami had Rayshawn Jenkins, Jamal Carter, and who's the third one? Rayshawn Jenkins, Jamal Carter, and there's Deion Bush. There it is. So they had 3 NFL players at safety, but they're giving snaps to Tambu Frentress and AJ Highsmith. For why? Nah, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see no Robert Knowles. You got 3 NFL dudes and you got some other guys. Play the NFL dudes. I don't, whoever wins those 2 jobs, but you got those guys. So, 2 of those 3, and then obviously rotating in the third, because I think that Gervin Hall is going to take a leap coming into his sophomore year. Amari Carter is a junior. It's about time that, he was behind Redwine and Johnson, so you're not really going to take away the 2 best safeties off the field, or anything like that. So, yeah, between Bandy for sure, 2 of the Hall, Bolden, and Carter trio, and then filling in, the Blades, Williams, Couch, Ivy, group. I think that's what the secondary rotation is going to be like. And then, we ride from there. But I think that, all of those guys are going to be able to step up. And it's been proven that Ephraim Bonda can coach safeties and Mike Rumpf can coach cornerbacks. So I'm not sure of the names we're going to play, but they're going to be good.
Got Cam Underwood on the line from State of the U talking about Miami football. There's always plenty to talk about, and the Canes go to camp here in about 3 weeks. Fred Langston asking, Cam, do you know anything? Is there anything true to the story about Miami crashing the Florida State meeting in Orlando?
That is 100% true. There was a Nike coaching clinic camp thing for coaches. So obviously no players, adults. And it was in Orlando, and Florida State was scheduled to have a session. And the University of Miami coaches rolled up in their Adidas gear, 3-Stripe Life, and they had a social hour at the time that the Florida State session was supposed to start. So it went from registration into the Florida State session. This is 100% confirmed. I've personally spoken to a couple people who work for the University of Miami athletic department in the football area who have confirmed that to me. I've spoken to other journalists. There are pictures of this from the high school coaches who were there, and they're talking about, oh yeah, like you just pull a power move, you roll up to Orlando, and you have it's football coaches, like just dudes being guys. So you got a bunch of beer, and you're like, hey, we're going to go meet people. We're going to build these relationships. Yeah, you know what? You did your registration. Oh, you're waiting in line for registration? Come on over. Let's hang out, have a brew. The line's going to go down. Oh, you're already through? They're not even started yet. Come on in, hang out, do that. That's 100% true. Like, I don't know how much stronger I can say it. Like, they absolutely went up there, did it, had a good time. And I'm not going to say that they totally usurped the Florida State session and like everybody was only over at the social hour and not at Florida State's coaching clinic. That's false. But the fact that Miami's entire coaching staff and several recruiting staffers were up there and they did that and they had a social hour where they were giving away free beer to high school coaches, absolutely 100% true.
Is it safe to say that Mark Richt's coaching staff would not do that?
Oh my God! Come on! No, absolutely not. Would not have done anything like that. If you're looking at like the "Let's Be Jerks" moments, copyright pending or patent pending, because I coined that for you. But "Let's Be Jerks" moments in Mark Richt's coaching career. You got whatever year that was in the world's largest outdoor cocktail party, where the entire Georgia sideline went onto the field and celebrated that first Noshan Moreno touchdown. So you got that where the whole, literally every single person on the roster, with scholarship or not, that he said, yo, we're going to score first, and I want everybody to run out there. And they did that. Cool. Awesome. When he lost his mind, Mark Richt, in 2017, I forget what game that was. North Carolina? I forget what game it was. It was at Hard Rock Stadium, and there was like a holding penalty that wasn't called, and they got like 2 sideline warnings, and it was a 15-yard penalty on him, and he snapped. I mean, he went off the walls. That was it. Those were the 2 moments in his career that it was like that kind of Miami bravado. Like, yo, we're here. We're going to do this. Like, I'm going to blow a gasket in support of my guys because John Garvin is getting, horse collared and, thrown to the ground. But then you call a penalty on us, or you don't call this holding. And that one time when he sent the whole Georgia program onto the field to celebrate. So I say that to say that if you extend that out into something such as this, like a recruiting thing, like I'm going to go out of my area to a competing company's event with a competing school, and I'm going to host a happy hour, social, whatever. There's no way. No, absolutely not. He was going to, no, that is a thing. Mark Richt did a lot of great things. Mark Richt is a great man, and I do not want to disparage him at all, but he did not have that streak in him like Manny Diaz to go up there and pull a stunt such as this. No way. None.
I think he did that in the Orange Bowl, didn't he? Isn't that when he blew the gasket?
Against Wisconsin. It might have been. Yeah, it was definitely at Hard Rock Stadium, and he blew a gasket. But either way, whichever game it was, sure, it was that game, and it was the Florida Georgia game, and those were like the 2 moments of anything really with that kind of bravado, with that kind of gravitas to it, of that same kind of just like F the haters, yo, we're gonna do this. No. So no, I mean, if he were still coach, his coaching staff, would not have done what Manny Diaz and them did in Orlando, last week. But I mean, that's cool. Like, I wish Mark Richt well. Like, I thank him for what he did, and to everything there's a season. So Al Golden did some good things at Miami, and good from a structural standpoint to get us through the cloud of the NCAA thing. We didn't win enough games, and like, yeah, cool. But there were some things that he did well. Mark Richt took the program to the next step. And then there was a step back last year. But now, hopefully, Manny Diaz, as he steps up to be a head coach, can take the next step forward with this program. So I'm not going to disparage Mark Richt, but I will say that whole coaching clinic thing would not have happened if he were head coach. 100%.
9-4, won a bowl game for the first time in ever.
Mm-hmm.
10-3, won a division championship, started the season 10 consecutive wins.
Yep.
2 disparaging losses. The Wisconsin game could have gone either way against one of the 10 best teams in the country, so I don't think that was a bad effort. So jogging onto the field, setting up for the kickoff against LSU, this looked like a program based on results on the field and recruiting rankings that was taking off, and then it all just came crashing down due to a lot of bad choices and a lot of bad loyalties. Not bad loyalties, but misplaced loyalties.
Right. Yeah. I mean, don't want to fire your kid, and also don't want to. I mean, and
get your kid a Division III job. Let him cut his chops there. I don't get it. It's.
I said it on here. Like I said it on here. Mark Richt was coaching for 30 years. You got to lean on those relationships. Get your son promoted out somewhere else. Boom. You go to Thomas Brown and say, look, I know you played for me and everything, but I got to bring in the offensive coordinator. So I know you're not going to take a bump down back to just running backs coach. So maybe part ways. I'll put in a good word for you somewhere else. He obviously landed on his feet at South Carolina right away. Thomas Brown did. So all those kind of things. But yeah, just anyway, I don't want to necessarily belabor the point about Mark Richt and everything. But yeah, I don't think that what we saw would have happened. And, hopefully, this new Miami and this new energy continues to spin forward.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football, breaking down Miami with the best source that I know of in talking X's and O's and structure of the program, organization, history, recruiting, everything involved. Cam Underwood from State of the U. All right, you can contribute to the channel by joining us on Patreon, and you watch the video there, and you'll see what we have in store for you there. And also, of course, Amazon, grab the link. Do your shopping at Amazon just using the link. You don't have to buy the product. Just do your regular shopping, and the Super Chat's available as well, as many people have contributed. Cuban Canes is asking, as are probably 20 some people, did we already get a decision on Tate Martell? I don't believe so.
No.
Do we know what a timetable might be?
It has been, one, no, there has not been a decision yet. Two, it has been reported in other places that a decision could come by the start of spring practice, which is in 2.5 weeks or 20 days on March the 19th. So sometime in these next 3 weeks is really when we're going to be on high alert, because again, it has been reported that a decision could or should come by the start of spring practice.
All right, talking Miami football with Cam Underwood from State of the U. We touched upon recruiting to a certain extent in regards to philosophy, strategies, what's important, and the one name came up, of course, Justin Flo from the West Coast. Any other recruiting news toward 2020?
Finally got Don Chaney Jr. to commit, Miami's #1 target at running back, who's a top 50 player in America. He's like a top 5 running back, 5'11", 195 pounds, or 199 pounds. Already ran for about 8,300 yards and like 40 touchdowns, I want to say, in 3 years of high school at Belen Jesuit down in Miami. Been on the radar forever. His dad played college football, I want to say, at South Carolina. He was an Optimist legend, Chaney Jr. was, and yeah, he's just a stud. And he's going to lock it down. He's not taking any other visits. He's going to be Lorenzo Lingard or DJ Dallas and start recruiting for Miami, be one of the vocal ambassadors for this class, excuse me. And he's really, really good. So that's a great thing. Otherwise, apart from that, on recruiting, I'm starting my look ahead to, well, not look ahead anymore, but look at the 2020 recruiting class. So I already looked at the numbers and needs for this class. Apart from that, we profiled all of the, or reintroduced to the people, the 2020 recruits, because most people don't look to the years in ahead, for those recruits. So I like to reset the board and like reintroduce those guys. So I did, the numbers and needs, reintroduced the recruits. And then today we talked about quarterback recruiting, because quarterback recruiting is unlike any other position. So there's that. Probably not this week. I might leave it till, well, we'll see what happens. But in the near future, we're going to look at the other offensive targets and options apart from quarterback, and then obviously on the defensive side as well. And defense is probably going to be a bigger class than offense in 2020 for the Miami Hurricanes. Well, maybe except for the offensive line. So we're looking at all those different kind of things, and we'll see if there's going to be any kind of movement. But that's kind of it for right now. We'll see some unofficial visits start to pop up. I know that there's a big 7-on-7 tournament in Miami this weekend. So I know that there's a team from or a couple teams from Louisiana, like the Bootleggers, and another team, that always has elite kids. They're probably going to come down, take unofficial visits. There's other, things like that. So like I said, once guys set foot on campus, then things can maybe start spinning. So we'll see what happens. But, recruiting never sleeps, and you always got to be recruiting. So there's going to be more stuff in the future, even though I don't have necessarily a crystal ball to tell you what that is and when that's going to be. But, that will be forthcoming.
Of course, Miami and Florida open the season in Orlando. For me, if you give me Miami in 8.5 points, obviously the point spread can turn in any way, in direction, in terms of Florida could be winning by 3 points and they tack on a late touchdown that means absolutely nothing, and they win by 10 in a very close game. But if they play 100 times, which they won't, I don't believe they're going to play 100 times. But they're playing once. But if they played 100 times, the odds tell me that Miami at 8.5 points with that defense versus it's a very talented Florida offense with a very good head coach toward a bent toward offense, and they improved considerably last year, but it's still not a dynamic offense, that these two teams are more comparable than 8.5 points. And that's our opening line, Cam.
Yeah, but you have to also go with a bit of recency bias. Florida ended the season well. They had a big win in a bowl game, and Miami's season was pretty atrocious, especially the back half of the season. You start by getting blown out by LSU. Yeah, a couple of touchdowns made it a little bit more palatable aesthetically, but like I said, most people either left or turned off the game at either 30-3 or 33-3 in favor of LSU. So, that, and then obviously, the bowl game again against Wisconsin, and that's just terrible. And, you lose to Virginia and Boston. I mean, there's so many things where if you look back to the most recent evidence on Miami, and the most recent evidence on Florida, you would maybe think that, okay, it'd be 10.5, 12.5 in favor of Florida. But, it is a rivalry game and things like that. So you start to walk that line back down a little bit. So I think that 8.5 right now, honestly, is fair because the defense for Miami is known and the offense is not. And that measure of uncertainty about what Miami will actually employ and bring on offense is maybe the nature of why this game is at 8.5 instead of 3.5.
Number of people get a shout out because I've yet to see your handle before here at Mark Rogers TV. You get a little chime there for me, Cam. You've developed a chime when I
oh my bad. No, it's
first timers.
It's the Jamaican air horn, the rap air horn, if you will. So
that's it.
I do that subconsciously, but I guess I got to stop doing that now.
We get no. I think it's a perfect compliment to it. What it is.
Yeah.
We got Master of Dreams 1. We got Kenneth Futch. We got Mary Lana Medina, and I will mention her comment in just a second. Fausto Villar and others. Mary Lana has a foursome in the Final Four here for the 2020 playoff that you're going to like because of one obvious, but also a secondary selection here: LSU, Texas, Miami, Michigan.
Oh, hey. Wow. My favorite hypothetical matchup that I've written about a couple of times because I'm a native Michigander who grew up going to the big house to watch the University of Michigan, and I'm a by choice and wonderful choice Miami Hurricanes, so I believe in orange and green. So marrying the team of my youth versus the team of my choosing would be a wonderful matchup for me, and I would enjoy talking noise to my family members and friends who, unlike me, decided to attend the University of Michigan. So yeah, I would welcome that in a heartbeat.
Got Cam Underwood on the line, of course, from State of the U, talking Miami football. And boy, my mind went blank. I had something there, but so many people have asked about this. I'm going to finally break down and bring it up.
Okay.
I just think you've covered it a number of times, but people want to hear more about how is the offensive line going to get fixed?
The offensive line is going to get fixed in the same way that I've said before, but I get that people might not have seen that or wanted to hear it again. Honestly, there's two components. There's player progression, which I've talked about already, wanting to see and needing to be necessary in spring. So players getting better. And that can be guys who have not really seen the field. It could be Cleveland Reed, who was a redshirt last year. It could be Kylian Herbert. It can be Zalante Hillary. It can be Tommy Kennedy, who's a transfer coming in. Anybody, Navon Donaldson getting better, slimming down, understanding his assignment, whatever. Everybody needs to get better, first of all, in some way. Secondarily, the scheme. Because Miami's scheme was very rudimentary. It was very predictable. So it is harder to execute your blocks when the defenders know pretty much what you're doing. Think about if you were playing, and I've mentioned it a couple times already today. Think about if you were playing EA Sports NCAA football on freshman difficulty, where the computer only ran 5 plays. So if they came out in a certain alignment, you're like, oh, they're running this play again. So you shift your defensive strength, you bring these other blitzes and things, and you blow that play up and it loses 12 yards. Because they're not able to execute because you know what's coming. And Miami was facing that on offense because the offense was predictable. It was, you could go and say, okay, they're going to run this or this, this or this, and you come out and you see the alignment. And then, it's, big guys moving fast, so like if the whole defense knows we're coming this way, even if you have guys doing their very best, you can't hold everybody out. So I think the lack of that predictability is going to help as well. So a development of scheme and a development of players, you marry those together, and hopefully then the offensive line will be able to perform better. So that's where I think things are going to go. But again, all these things on offense are hypothetical to this point because nobody's seen it except for the players on a playbook, and nobody's seen it on the field yet because they're not able to put it on the field. So there are a lot of moving parts, but again, player development and scheme upgrades are going to help the offensive line be better.
Jalen Reynolds, Daryl Young, Dark Code. I like that handle for some reason. I don't know why. Charlie Clark, remembering Brock Berlin for some reason. I don't know why, but
Because he's
welcome to
awesome.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football.
Come on. I remember, yo, Brock Berlin. I was at that game against Florida in 03. I was a junior in college, man. Look, my homeboy, Matt Carter, shout out to Matt if he's watching, was the holder on extra points and field goals. He took over the number 11 after Ken Dorsey left. We were freshmen together in 2000, and he was always in the special teams meetings. And he came into the cafeteria on Wednesday after special teams meeting of the cafeteria Chartwells. What's up, Chartwells? At the University of Miami, right by Stanford Residential College, right by the Hecht Athletic Center, and right by the intramural fields. And he came in and said, yo, Devin has been going off all week talking about if we win the toss, get the ball because he's going to take it back to the house. And I'm like, man, he's like, no, I'm telling you, every meet, he's like, coach, I'm taking it to the crib. Coach, I'm taking it to the crib. And what happened on the opening kickoff? Devin Hester took that kickoff back, and it was the loudest thing. That was the loudest I ever heard the Orange Bowl. And we got down huge in that game, and we went 5 wide spread like it was John Moxon in Varsity Blues, throwing the oop-de-oop and everything. And Brock Berlin brought us back to win that game, which, by the way, is one of the Miami Hurricanes games we love, which was a feature that we did last summer. Yo, check it out. That's why we're talking about Brock Berlin, the GOAT. That's right. Came from Florida and then beat the Gators. What? Yo, you're getting me hype right now.
Wow. I don't remember that. Sorry. I don't recall that game. I probably watched some of it, if not all of it. Brock Berlin, I just think of Brock Berlin being he had some time in the NFL, didn't he?
Yeah, he did have some time in the NFL. He was a backup for a couple years, held a clipboard and things like that.
Yeah.
But no, I'm looking up the games we love featured right now. I'm about to send this. Yep, 30. It's right there. September 6th. I'm going to send this over to you on email, my friend, because
what am I going to see when I watch this?
No, I mean, well, last summer we did the games we love. It was a bracket. So we did a bunch of different or 4 different regions. And then we did this and we profiled all these different games of greatness from Miami Hurricanes seasons past. And obviously, this game we love, number 3 Miami and number 21 Florida, September 6th, 2003, was one of the games that had to be on that list just because, I mean, yeah, it was awesome. So, one of our guys, Craig T. Smith, he wrote about it and sent it over and everything. And I think that game got pretty far in our bracket, I want to say. But yeah, so it goes over the game and everything. And at the end, we put the full game highlights or as many highlights as we could find from YouTube. So you relive the game as though you were there, and then you can click and see the highlights and go see, oh, hey, yeah, he did this or that, the thing that you talked about in there. So, I mean, it's pretty cool. But no, yeah, that game was, that game was awesome.
So what game won the whole shebang, the whole tourney?
Oh, man. It was one of the championship games.
So you got a bunch of 30-somethings and 20-somethings voting on this. So I got to think everything post.
No, we went back. We took it back into, all the way to 1984 Orange Bowl. I mean, we tried to be comprehensive with everything. But actually, no. Yeah, the game that won the entire bracket was the 2002 Rose Bowl against Nebraska. Was the Miami Hurricanes game that we love the most. So, yeah, I mean, obviously on the internet, you're going to be skewing maybe a little bit younger. So that's the thing that people might have remembered or enjoyed or whatever more. But, yeah, no, it was good. We had the 4 regions. I mean, we had a bunch of, I set the whole thing up. It was pretty cool. But, yeah, you got to check it out. So if you haven't read that, you're a Miami Hurricanes fan. The Miami Hurricanes games we love bracket features on State of the U is awesome. And I'm sending over D1 versus Florida 2003. And I'm sending that to Mark right now as we sit there and the AC comes back on and I'm starting to sweat. Awesome.
I will take that in. There's no question about that. I'm the guy that's up at 4:00 in the morning watching like NFC wildcard games from 1983. I just love reliving that stuff.
Yeah, no, it's pretty cool,
guys being like, oh yeah, I forgot about him.
Yeah, I mean, we did that. I remember one of the ones that I wrote about where Brock Berlin was quarterback was the 2004 game against Louisville, that Thursday night game when Devin Hester undressed the punter on that punt return to Mike Tirico. Oh, the kids take the lead, that whole thing, and everything. So, yeah, and I mean, a lot of great memories and things like that. So, yeah, just even seeing or hearing somebody talking about, oh, yeah, Brock Berlin, that they got my fandom going back. Because like I said, I was a college kid in those days and everything. I'm not a college kid anymore, but, yeah, I still remember all things like that. So, yeah, pretty cool.
Cam, you're not allowed to bring up age and any kind of disparaging comments about yourself on this show. Because I'm going to add like 15 years to anything that you state.
Look, it was a point of fact. I was just saying, I was a college kid then. I'm not a college kid now. It wasn't disparaging. It wasn't anything like that. Just simple fact.
Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. So check us out on Patreon. We've got some additional content coming there. You can support the channel there. You can support us by going to the Amazon links in the description section, shopping at Amazon, and of course here in the super chat, which many of you have done. I appreciate that. So I am taking this question. This is my question coming off a lot of comments and putting them together. From your standpoint, looking at the Florida State situation, how would you assess Willie Taggart? There seems to be some good things that he's doing. The recruiting classes have been decent, but there's him missing on a quarterback this year has to be somewhat alarming for that program. And obviously, they were just a mess offensively, and that's his calling card last year.
Yeah, I'm going to come back to that. I do just want to talk quickly.
Sure.
As
this is your deal,
right? As has been reported by the Orlando Sentinel today, and I may or may not have heard something about this recently from a source. Anyway, the season opening matchup for Miami and Florida could possibly be moved up a week from August 31st to August 24th. And that is potentially because ESPN is in talks to move the game up a weekend to go early and have the entire spotlight as opposed to being on the 31st with all of the opening week games. Now, to move that, and again, you can check this out, or the Orlando Sentinel. It's up on 247 Sports. I'm probably going to blog about it really quickly after I get off of here. But that would require NCAA approval because that is an earlier start date, which means that practices would have to start earlier, and it's an earlier start to the season than the actual season calendar has. Because I think the first day that you can have a game is that Thursday, the 28th, I want to say, or 29th. So yeah, that is a thing that has developed recently today. It is potentially possible. It is not 100% in stone yet. Or anything like that, but did just want to bring that up and broach that topic because, like I said, I'd heard a whisper about that, and then to see that in the Sentinel through things, and like I said, I heard it from one person. I will say this much: I heard it from one person, but to be able to run with something, with journalistic integrity, you need to hear it from at least 3 or 4 unconnected people, to vet your sources, and I just hadn't had time to do that or anything, and then so it is possible that the game could be moved up. But then again, the NCAA could just say, nope, not going to do it. But I don't know that they would necessarily spite ESPN like that. But we'll see. But like I said, it has been reported by the Orlando Sentinel that it is possible that the game between Miami and Florida could be moved up by 7 days.
So if you're close to my age, then you remember way back into the early 80s, let's say, when college football started always in September, regardless of the way the calendar fell, they played less games. They played 11 games then, and everybody started in September. And then there was an event that started called the Kickoff Classic. And then there were other variations of that. Miami played in several, one against Auburn. I remember one against the blasted Penn State, coming off Penn State at national championship season, which Miami annihilated them like 44-6. I remember scores for some reason. Anyway, it was played at the Meadowlands. There were other games, of course, and they would pit 2 of the great programs in the country. And it was this phenomenal thing that we have a football game played in August, like August 29th, just because it was played, several days before the rest of the season. And then the schedule adjusted and everybody started playing 12 games. And those particular teams would play 12 games because that was an additional game. Now here we're in a place where everybody plays the pat 12-game schedule, but we've got this opening weekend, like a week 0 that we've had for several years. And there's usually these oddball games. Nobody big is playing, but you're starved for college football. So you watch Rice and Stanford play. I think they played in Australia last year. You got odd games like that, like a Colorado State, Oregon State. So you're seeing Group of 5 playing just the bottom of the barrel of the Power 5. But to have a matchup like Miami and Florida by itself playing that early, now that would be something, and that would be unprecedented.
Yeah, I mean, and we've had other great opening games. And it would be a wonderful thing to have, Miami and Florida, which is, better than, Miami and Alcorn State, which was a second week or opening game when I was in college and things like that. But yeah, when you have these marquee games, it really sets the season on fire. You start with a bang. It's not a thing like, okay, we're gonna just kind of waltz through September, and then maybe the first week of October we see something. Florida, Tennessee, usually that first or second weekend in October, whenever it is, or blah blah blah. No, like we're coming out of the gate, boom, we're rocking, we're rolling. Like the LSU game, or Florida this year, Alabama next year or the year after, in the opening game. I mean, things like that. So yeah, I mean, it is really great, but to have a traditional rivalry, like a game with with meaning to it, like, yeah, okay, it's not for a conference thing. I mean, it is more bragging rights, but when you have teams that are recruiting against each other, they're in the same state, Florida, I don't know which is the bigger institution, like financially. I think it's Florida, because Florida State, I think, is running at a big deficit right now, athletically, excuse me. But yeah, so you have, the teams of consequence, universities, programs of consequence. So yeah, to have it in the opening week, it would be one thing. And I was talking to a friend of mine the other day. There are so many games on August 31st because that is the first Saturday of the season. So even if you have a couple of these kickoff classics at the same time, you got one on Fox, one on ESPN, one on ABC, you're competing against each other. But if you move one up a week to the 24th, it's like me in this house. I got 2,200 square feet for just me. I'm over here. I'm kicked back and relaxed, maxing all cool. Like there's nobody here. I got the spotlight on me. I mean, like I got this light right here. It's all the stages to myself, So, and maybe that is what ESPN is maybe looking to get with Miami and Florida, that opening week or before opening week. So this will be a week -1 almost instead of the week 0, but we'll see.
Well, I'm going to check here, because you did have that, even though you opened with everyone else on week 1, you did have the Sunday night by yourself.
Right. Yeah, no,
against
true.
LSU.
Yeah, exactly. We did have that Sunday night. So you are correct about that.
So here's your week 0 game. Now, again, I played up Colorado State, Oregon State. Again, I just remember them playing like a 57-32 game this past season, and I watched it from start to finish just because I was starved for college football. So I'm watching Oregon State, the worst team in Power 5, basically playing Colorado State last year. So this is the version of this year. August 24th on a Saturday, Arizona and Hawaii are playing. So that's the kind of matchup you get on the week 0 is you get, Hawaii, they went like 8-6, a nice, decent group of 5 program out of the Mountain West, taking on a Power 5 team that underachieved last year under Kevin Sumlin with 5 wins. Then you've got a nice little Thursday run of games that includes Utah, BYU, and UCLA and Cincinnati, and Georgia Tech, Clemson open the ACC network. And then you go to Friday and you've got a couple Big Ten teams playing. You got Rutgers playing Oklahoma State and Oregon State. And then again, Saturday is the big extravaganza, and Florida and Miami is one of the marquee games, of course. But this again would put them all by their lonesome that weekend before.
Yeah, and that's a marquee spot, obviously, for a big game with teams of relevance. So and people want to talk about Miami not being relevant. Miami has always been relevant. Miami has not recently been good, and there is a distinct difference between those things. So
I agree.
I mean, obviously, Miami still does move the needle when on television with ESPN. I mean, I know the Thursday night games, Miami's always drawn well television-wise. Miami does not have a Thursday night game this year, which is kind of crazy to me. It's the first time in a long time that I think about that. I think there is a Friday night game, but no, actually, the Thursday, I'm thinking back to my youth, I'm hearing the the old, like, early 2000s Thursday night football theme, so like, but yeah, no, Miami doesn't have one of those. But again, putting that game, moving Florida and Miami, up a week, would give the entire spotlight. Now, I will say all that. What was the question that was asked before I spoke about that?
There have been a ton of comments about Willie Taggart and the Florida State program. I just kind of gathered it up because I just think it's an interesting situation, what's going on down there, up there for you.
Yeah. I mean, exactly. Up from where I am. It is interesting to see, having had some bad coaches and bad program status for a while. I think the Miami fans are very attuned to being able to see the frauds, and it looks like Willie Taggart is going trending that way. You mentioned not recruiting or not getting a quarterback in this recruiting class. This is the second year in a row that Willie Taggart and Florida State have not gotten a high school quarterback to sign with them in a recruiting class, which is pretty unprecedented. I cannot think of, I know that, I do follow a couple Florida State fans just because, like I do. But I don't think that anybody's found a program of any kind that's gone 2 years without a quarterback in a recruiting class. That's craziness. Like, again, I'm mentioning it, but whatever. Recruiting rule number 1 in the recruiting rules is you have to have a quarterback every year. Not even just 1 year without, but now 2. That's a full generation and a half of college players. Like when you go, okay, like with the redshirt year, and like you're talking about this could be like a 6-year span or more that's affected by not having had a quarterback, signee in these 2 years. Like it is mind-boggling. And Florida State did do well recruiting this year. They did close on some guys, but like still, they're playing a lot of away games, and like, hey, it's fine for me, but a team like that should, again, recruit locally before nationally. I think that's what every team should do. That's recruiting rule number 3. But you're playing all these away games. You're talking about, Cali Knowles, or we're going to get all the best guys from California. We're going to go invest all this time in Texas and everything, where Jimbo Fisher now works, and good luck Willie Taggart out recruiting Jimbo Fisher. Spoiler alert, that ain't going to happen, period. So it's kind of crazy to me. So, we'll see what happens. And, even guys who are generational talents, Cam Akers coming out of high school was so incredibly ridiculous. That kid was terrible last year. And if you want to talk about the offensive line and whatever, and maybe nicked and dinged, but I mean, even you're talking about, and I have retweeted the tweets and people have not deleted them, and I have screenshots. I'll pull them up. People were talking about Cam Akers as being better than Dalvin Cook as immediately as a freshman. So where Dalvin Cook ended as a junior, they said, we're coming in with Cam Akers, and he's going to be a progressional step from where Dalvin just was as a third-year player. What? But, there's a lot. I mean, wide receivers, like their careers go there to die. I mean, you just have so many guys of size and speed and quality coming out of high school, and like 34 catches for 600 yards and 4 touchdowns. Like there's so much that's going on, and Willie it does not seem to me that he has the answer, and that's fine. I lived through the Randy Shannon era, which had more answers than the Al Golden era, which didn't really have any. But yeah, I mean, I definitely think that, yes, Miami did have to lean on the transfer portal heavily this year, but as a program overall, Miami is in a way better place than Florida State. And like I said, I'm good with that because, like, F them boys.
We have been running between 130 and 150 people online, so we should have more than 30 likes. And what that does is, I can't explain the process, but according to anybody that knows YouTube, is that it just helps the algorithms when you engage in the product, whether that's with comments or likes or shares. So please do all of the above to help us continue to deliver the best in college football coverage, specifically Miami football, with Cam Underwood from State of the U. Cam, you've got the floor. I am done for the night unless there's anything else you want to address.
No, I mean, not really. I got a couple more minutes, I guess.
Sure.
I know always that I say, like, I can go rapid fire, and then we get on a tangent where we talk for 10 minutes and things. But no, I want to take like 5 or 10 just like rapid fire questions, just like go through, because I know that people come on to ask questions sometimes, and I haven't done anything in a couple weeks. So yeah, let's just go through. I'll hit some couple things, some quick hitters. I will keep my answers short. So if I answer your question in a short fashion, I'm doing that intentionally to try to get to more people. But yeah, we'll do that, and then I'll close it up.
Okay. Let me see what I can find. There's just a whole lot of trash talking down near the bottom of this. Let's see. I tried to summarize pretty much everything that we had at the time. Let's see.
If you don't have anything, then I'll just end it. It's fine.
What I really need to do for you folks is I need to try to summarize many of the points that are being made to the videos after they post, because we get hundreds of comments there, and kind of summarize those and present those to Cam when I run out of things to talk about and you guys just start trash talking each other in the live chat, because
I
that's what
mean,
typically happens there.
that's what live chats are for. You know, I play video games. I get on party chat with my friends. I understand.
All right, Cam, we appreciate it. Welcome back. It's not nearly been the same without you, and we always appreciate it. You know that you are always welcome.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so I guess, you know, like I said, I'll end it out. I appreciate you know, you guys having me and spending a little time with me on a or us, I should say, on a Wednesday night. But yeah, you know, always 24/7 on stateoftheu.com. We have a great crew of writers. All of the guys there. I'm not going to name everybody because I'm invariably going to miss somebody's name, and I don't want to do that, because every single person who contributes to State of the U, I believe, is a quality person. They bring you quality content for free all the time. So whether it's basketball, baseball is in full season, football, recruiting, which never sleeps. You know, we're just out there all the time. So please go check us out, stateoftheu.com. We've done so many things over my almost 6 years there with the website now, whether it be the Miami Hurricanes Games We Love bracket, whether it's the Why I Became a Miami Hurricane feature a couple summers ago, when all of our contributors, some of who do not contribute with us anymore, but told their origin story of their fandom or connection to the University of Miami, whether it's, you know, features, profiles, commentary, analysis. We have all kinds of great stuff over there for you. Graphics of a top level with a, you know, amazing graphic designer who contributes with us as well. So like I said, you know, we're all Canes all the time. I really do appreciate interacting with you guys. I see that we continue to do strong numbers and grow every single month, and I appreciate you guys because that validates what we do. So like I said many a time, stateoftheu.com, go check us out. On Twitter at the State of the U. I'm usually the one tweeting on there. My personal Twitter is at Underwood Sports, because, you know, I love that U because it leads off my last name. But yeah, you know, I'm there all the time. So like I said, thank you. Please come check us out and come fan with us.
Cam, as soon as you mentioned and referenced 6 years at State of the U, I came up with a great idea. I'm not going to say anything else about it, but I'm going to let everyone know that you need to be looking out for a particular post on Throwback Thursday, which of course hits us at midnight. So sometime tomorrow, I'm going to deliver a post that's going to involve Cam, and that's all I'll say. It just hit me.
Okay.
So we're going to take advantage of Throwback Thursday.
Throwback Thursday.
TV.
I have no idea what Mark just came up with in his head, so I'm excited or anxious to see what it is as well. But, you know, I'm sure it'll be something good.
All right, Cam. We appreciate it. You have a great night.
All right, guys. You too. So I appreciate you, Mark, and I'll talk to you guys.